I am so thankful for these gentlemen being with us tonight, because it is so important. The reason why we're having these prep talks, everybody, is because it's super important for the Black community to understand what the Black woman is facing regarding domestic violence. And so if we don't have these conversations, then we don't understand that. And so, again, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. There we go. Our comments are finally up. And so when you want to ask a question of any of our guests or of myself, feel free to just put it in the comments and I'll be able to see those. Before we do, I just kind of want to set the stage of what Courageous Fire LLC does, just in case you're a little bit unfamiliar with our mission. So we are a domestic violence agency and movement, but we are specifically targeted at Black women. Domestic violence is the number one health issue that Black women face. And so because of that, that is our focus. We want to definitely draw more attention to the lesser known forms of domestic violence. When a woman is being hit or punched or kicked, we usually at some point realize that it's not just anger or frustration or misunderstandings, but that it is abuse. But some of the other forms are a lot trickier for us to spot. The sexual abuse within intimate partner relationships is not often noticed. Economic abuse is definitely often not noticed. That whole thing of he keeps overspending and I thought it was a mistake, but it's not. It's intentional. The psychological abuse and the verbal abuse, a lot of those are not noticed and can go on for years. And the problem with those lesser known forms is that if you don't know that you're in trouble, you cannot get help on those. And so, and then we are very proud that we have created a solution to the cycles of abuse being repeated for Black women in empowerment through the arts, which is actually a combination of therapeutic techniques, art forms, and it incorporates the group setting, because art is where we learn and open up best, and group settings of women that look like us with a facilitator that looks like them, we feel safe and comfortable there. So we combined all of those important things together, and it's effective. And so we're really proud to be able to offer that without any cost to the survivors in a movement. The reason why these men are at the table tonight is because we can't do it by ourselves. And so we need to bring in the entire community, and our men pose a very important part of that need. So gentlemen, I'm just gonna kick it off right here with the first topic, which is intersectionality. For those of you at home that might not be aware of that actually is the intersection of the converging of race, class, and gender for the Black woman. So race is obvious, right? We understand what that looks like. We understand what that oppression looks like. But the Black woman doesn't just deal with the race issue. She also deals with the class issue. Current CNN statistics show that 1 out of every 5 Blacks live in poverty. So now let's add the gender to it. We got 2 really big things that the Black women deal with. Number 1, the angry Black woman stereotype. Number 2, hypersexualization. So the angry Black woman stereotype basically somehow suggests that we don't need protection, advocacy, or help using our voices due to this perception of an almost superhuman strength and resiliency due to our aggression and our strength. So the angry Black woman stereotype combines the strength and the anger, and that is one of those things that says, oh, she's not a victim. She's not a real victim. She's not helpless. She can fight back. She'll resist. She has a mouth. She'll do this. So she doesn't need that protection. And then the hypersexualization that would actually make it seem as though Black women like being sexualized and that we actually enjoy being sexual aggressors.
Okay. And I'm wondering, if that's where some of the disconnect may come from, is because not enough of us are taking a step back and owning the fact that we're not thinking about it during the day, or it doesn't necessarily cross our minds. Here's what I do know is that all of us on this phone call, especially the men, are every day making decisions. We wake up making decisions. We wake up deciding on certain aspects, whether it's financial, whether it's religion, whether it's to say something or be silent on something, right? And I think even in our decision whether or not to say something or be silent, the disconnect may come that we're not necessarily thinking outside of where we are currently at the moment, but we're thinking, all right, how do I do the best job possible and serve everybody, instead of maybe thinking about how will this affect this Black woman that I'm charged to serve.
Rob, you definitely walked right into where I was headed next, because you started talking about how the man is viewed as he's in charge. And it is an automatic mindset. So this is an article that I found when I was doing some research, and it says our patriarchal society doesn't always tell the stories of the Black woman. So if I talk about Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Rekia Boyd, Natasha McKenna, Michelle Cusseau, Tanisha Anderson, and countless other women and girls that were like so many of our Black men this year, these names may not be as familiar as some of the Black men this year. Their gender and race left them exposed to police violence, yet, unlike Black men, the stories of the Black women and girls being hunted, objectified, harmed, and sometimes killed by police remain seemingly sidelined in the call to upend things as we know it. I'm going to skip down to this really interesting section that says, this is something we've seen throughout history. Nearly 6,500 Black people were lynched between 1865 and 1950. That figure includes women and children, yet we do not visualize a woman swinging from a tree. And the reason is that it's horrific to remember the way that Black women have been treated in society for 400 years. Black women have been subjected to state-sanctioned rapes and beatings. And this article went on to talk about that their point was not to characterize the brutality that Black women face as greater than that of Black men. It's all horrific, but rather that their point was to highlight the urgency that we must centralize the violence and often sexualized violence Black women face. When we do so, we take on the possibility of truly upending the oppressive system rather than replicating it. Talk to me. RAUH, you were the person that didn't get to talk last time, so we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I want to mix both a little bit if I can. So about intersectional, I realized too that if you think about it, like looking back at in the 40s and even in slavery, like the civil rights kicked off because it wasn't illegal to rape a Black woman. It's like, what are you talking about? You don't rape her. You just like, and you guys didn't feel any pain, even with doctors to this day. He mentioned pregnancy. That's what kind of triggered me a little bit. I'm like, that's true, because all the experiments was done on Black women. It was like, we just scoop it right out, and it's not, they don't feel nothing, they don't need it, they fine, not even human. Even with All in the Family, stuff like that, like, you know, like he beat his wife. That was a running joke. Like, I beat my wife. And we just adapt to it, and we've seen that growing up. It seems like we just like, you know, ain't no thing. I'm supposed to do that.
That when you really look at how invisible and effective that can be in replicating that same cycle throughout generations, that's pretty staggering and pretty sobering. Thank you for that perspective.
When we talk about, you know, pandemics and things we have to fight and things we have to stop so that we can continue to move forward together as a society, you know, the violence against women, economic violence, mental violence, physical violence, that's a pandemic that's been long overdue to be faced in this country.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Al.
So I'll jump in here real quick. So I was doing some quick research.
Yes.
And I think what I want to definitely speak on is I'm always about government accountability, but I don't know if you guys knew this, but Black families were some of the strongest families back in the 40s, 50s. And what has shifted from that is government policies that has destabilized the Black family but not only that, destabilized the Black woman. So it discouraged marriages. It pushed women out on their own, leaving them to raise a family. And I feel like we can connect the dots to these stereotypical strong Black woman. She can do it by herself. Rhetoric. I can't say for sure, but thinking through it, we can connect the dots to a lack of government being accountable to how they're treating and representing our families and our Black women.
And before Rob speaks on it, I really, really got to piggyback on the whole policy thing and representation. Because whether it's policy related or whether it is community driven, if we are not represented as Black women, then the societal norms will not shift in our favor, if that makes sense. So it will continue to be the whole patriarchal mindset of the man is the leader. It is the woman's job to support him. It is the woman's job to submit. It is the woman's job to serve him. And if she's good at her job, then whatever comes along the way that interferes with that, she'll pull out her mighty sword and she'll slay that. And that doesn't matter what that is. So if unemployment pops up, the woman is supposed to find a way to slay that so that the family stays strong. And so that the family leader, the head, doesn't get distracted. So that is an incredible pressure, especially when you're not being represented. Policy has to be different, but representation within the community needs to look different. How many times have we seen women that could have led something, not supported within the community to lead something?
Justyn. I think I want to add to that too, Courageous. I think one of the things that really struck me in this season of the Black Lives Matter movement was just really hearing the concerns of our sisters. And not only that, let us have our own voice. Move out the way. You have the door open to you because you're a male. Hold it open so I can get through it and then blaze my own trail. And then support me by falling behind me to get through where I need to go.
Okay, yeah.
And I just kept hearing that all the time. So definitely from our young Black women, oh man, I was like, okay, Justyn, stop centering. Stop centering yourself and hold the door open.
Wow.
And don't expect anything back. So that was something that I have really learned in this season. I've been really tapping into my sisters and just women to really understand that perspective. So goal is to get into positions of power and serve, like I say, serve like Christ. So like you're washing feet humbly to serve other people. This isn't about power for me. This is about putting the middle class and poor folks at the center of our society. And how we can do that is also looking at those who have always been at the bottom. And who has always been at the bottom since the creation of this country? Black women. Who has nurtured this country since the start of this country? Black women. Who has breastfed not only their own children, but other children? Black women. Who has had their own children stripped from their nipple and sold off? Black women. Who has created this country? Black women. Who holds this country together? Black women. It's not just about you. It's about who else can you serve in the moment.
Serving in the moment and making sure everyone is represented and that everyone has the opportunity to represent themselves and use their own voice for self-advocacy is crucial.
Because at the end of the day, we got to be responsible for each other. And I can't say I love you and allow you to do something that hurts us collectively.
There are a lot of ladies paying attention to your words, gentlemen, and I know that they were appreciative of the support that they felt in hearing the things that you said about things that directly impact them. And so I just want to thank all of you gentlemen, not just for being here tonight, but for the work that I know you are all actively, authentically doing in our community. Thank you guys that joined our live prep talk. And there will be more. This is not the last. And we'll continue to let you know when one is coming up, and we hope that you continue to tap in. Thanks, everybody. I'm Courageous Fire. Have a great night. Blessings.